Energy lies at the heart of India's development aspirations. From ensuring a better life for its 1.4 billion people to realizing a $5 trillion economy. At the same time, India confronts a key challenge: balancing economic growth with energy security, equity and environmental sustainability while pursuing decarbonization. Bengaluru witnessed the second edition of Shell India's Changemakers of Tomorrow 2024 event, partnered by Times Now, that highlighted the power of collaboration and innovation in creating a lower carbon future for India. With over 5,000 attendees, Changemakers of Tomorrow brought together industry leaders, government representatives, and the next generation of innovators to interact and design new ideas to shape the future of energy. The event was inaugurated by Shri Madhu Bangarappa, Minister for Primary and Secondary Education, Government of Karnataka, who praised Shell's initiative and stressed the importance of aspiring to be a change maker for future in his keynote address as the chief guest.
For tomorrow, it's very important. I think change can happen for my department, that is the school department. We have to prepare our children for tomorrow. I think I'm going to do that. We have gotten a lot of changes also. I think in renewable energy, I think Karnataka is doing pretty big as far as the solar, because one of the biggest solar plant is there in Karnataka near Pavagada. Innovative initiative we have taken up, especially from Shell company, where you have to change and people have to change. We all have to change for a better future. It might be renewable energy in different formats, solar, hydro.
Continuing the day's proceedings and welcoming Bengaluru to the latest edition of Changemakers of Tomorrow, Mansi Madan Tripathi, Chairperson, Shell Group of Companies in India, emphasized Shell's commitment towards empowering young innovators with the tools, knowledge and support they need to drive transformative change in India's energy landscape, capturing the essence of the event in her opening address.
This event every year brings in together the best which we have inside Shell, the best which we have outside of Shell, and binds them together to make and bring the promises of how we can all come together to solve for the problems, solve for the challenges, solve for the things which we all feel in our lives every day. Shell has invested close to $5 billion in the country for the purpose of energy transition. Today, we impact close to 1.1 million lives as we talk with our CSR programs and our programs on N-Explorers. Power business, we acquired Spring a couple of years back, as many of you know, and today we are fully operational with about 2.5 gigawatts on our way to our 5 gigawatt story in a couple of years' time. And then with our innovation in our digital space, the TAO capabilities which we have, and the overall R&D, we have been at the cutting edge to find solutions both from an energy decarbonization as well as how do we ensure that our operations are working at its most optimal at all the times. And I want to assure you that Shell's commitment both in India and for the globe remains so that we work on the problems of energy transition with our entire ecosystem as we go forward. As India energy needs are growing every day, as they move from kind of like the 40 exajoule which we have today to the 80 exajoule which will be needed, with all of it primarily coming as incremental to what we consume today, the entire renewable space is wide open for us to see how fast can we grow. How fast can we reach the last mile? How fast can we make it more affordable? And those are all the right questions which each of us need to ponder and say, what is the role I can play in this journey?
The day was further enhanced by the guest of honor, Gaurav Gupta, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary of Energy and Water Resources for the Government of Karnataka, who set the tone for the day with his fascinating keynote address. He also highlighted Karnataka's vision for energy transition in an exclusive fireside chat with Aisha Faridi, National Editor, Times Network.
So, given the context of today's agenda here, I wanted to understand how do you think India, considering, we play a very pivotal role across the world, how is it that we can be the change agent when it comes to renewable energy transition?
Yeah, India has chalked out a very ambitious target of 500 gigawatt. Now, 500 gigawatt is a huge target. We have already reached 175 gigawatt at the national level. All the states have chalked out their own plans, and this requires for a lot of capacity to be added. It requires solar panels to be put in every district, every state, and also we are looking at concentrated 2000 megawatt kind of big power plants that honorable ministers have talked about. But we are also looking at decentralized 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt kind of plants across the state. So we are likewise looking at wind and reconducting of wind turbines, the older turbines. We are looking at battery solutions. So Karnataka has a path which has been chalked out. We have something called resource adequacy plan, which basically looks into the issue of how much power do we need the days to come. And we have targeted 60 gigawatt and by the end of 2030. The part of the announcement by Honorable Chief Minister also. And we are working towards that.
You just talked about as to how Karnataka as a state has been the leading energy producer, how you've already reached your 40 gigawatt target. Tell me, we're in Bangalore, it's the technology hub. What are the technical innovations which are being made? I mean, we're talking about AI and just so much data and innovation on a daily basis. Tell us how is it that you're marrying the two, and what is it that the state is doing at their level to try and innovate technology transformation or energy transformation?
Yes. So, very interesting question. Thank you so much for asking that. So far, energy storage solutions are not yet very steady or not yet very well developed or very cheap enough to be deployed on a larger scale. So what we are doing is to see that how we can mix and match power, solar power, for example, in the daytime, we would like to keep the thermal plants down, and in the night time, we will keep our thermal plants up. And this kind of, like you are driving a bicycle, you have to keep on balancing. So likewise, you have to keep on balancing, and this is what the grids are supposed to do, the smart grids. So we are looking at how we can have smart grid solutions. We are looking at how we can use artificial intelligence to predict the load, predict the generation, and also to predict what is the market prices. And I'm happy to announce that recently we have had a tie-up with a startup which will use artificial intelligence for assisting us in number of these technologies. So we are very, very open to several other initiatives. I know that people here are problem solvers. They have found solutions to various problems identified. And I would strongly implore each one of you to help us find solutions to manage the integration of renewable energy into the grid and also to find solutions for storage.
But tell me, the vision that the country has to try and reach carbon neutrality, that also requires a lot of capex. We're talking about so much energy transition, so much technical innovation as well on a daily basis. How is it that you think, given that you're at the helm of the industry in Karnataka, can you bring in and attract more foreign investment to try and instill the capex further and maybe more quickly?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. This kind of capacity addition would require a lot of investments. We have been fortunate that there is a lot of private investment that has come in. Most of our investment would be in the private sector, which is also driven by, say, for example, pension funds from Canada. Tomorrow, we are also talking to US-India Business Consortium, USIBC, and they are talking about how they can bring in funds here. These funds will come to the private investors, and the private investors in turn would invest, and they will be able to be serviced.
Carrying the spirit of collaboration and innovation further, high-octane discussions among industry leaders such as Kamal Bali, President and Managing Director of Volvo Group India, Mansi Madan Tripathi, Chairperson Shell Group of Companies in India, and Vijay Nirani, Managing Director of Nirani Group and True Alt Energy, explored how collaboration can expand energy choices towards a low-carbon future in India in a panel discussion moderated by Aisha Faridi.
Mansi, we've had a lot of food for thought from the previous ministers to talk about today's India, how India can be the change agent. I wanted to start with, tell me, how is it that India can actually, navigate the path towards net zero emissions? How is it that India can play that pivotal role in this journey?
I think India is on a very, very interesting cusp right now in terms of, where we have come from and how fast are we accelerating. If you look at the global energy needs till 2050, the rate of growth, will be the highest coming from India, which is at the rate of 22%. And we have to grow from 40 exajoules to 80 exajoules, right? What distinguishes India's journey from, say, China or Europe or America is that our needs are not going to be substituted. It's going to be all incremental. All the incremental needs have to come from renewables. And I think that makes it very exciting. So it's not substitution, but incrementality, which we all need to work on. And how do we then make it extremely affordable and get it to the consumer at the right price point remains kind of like the most pivotal question as we go through this panel.
Kamal, there comes key role for industries such as yours, right? Because, look at it. We're sitting at Whitefield, which perhaps 10 years from now was the periphery of Bangalore. Cities are booming at the brink. You have so much of a transition happening to electric mobility. Yet at the same time, there is so much in the mindset which really needs to change. At the time when you're talking about India taking strides, whether it be our GDP or our economic boom otherwise. Tell me, how is it that industries such as you try and sort of marry this complex between the current landscape and the mindset as well, if you will?
And I think the question which you asked is a $1 million question. I think if today, to my mind, the biggest challenge, the biggest and the most fundamental challenge the world faces is climate change. And it's a huge challenge. It's complex, it's chaotic, it's costly. So let's not wish that away. It's there and it's going to be there for a long, long time to come. So I think it's a huge challenge, but at the same time, you need mobility. You need economic progress, as you rightly said. You need to lift a lot of people out of poverty. So economic wheels must continue. So what do? So very, very clearly, you need to decouple growth with its negative aspects. So therefore, companies like us, we've taken a pledge and a commitment that by 2040, we will become net zero in terms of our greenhouse gas emission throughout our entire value chain, not just our products, but entire value chain. We have decided to pick on 3 different pathways. And number 1, it's fuel cell electric vehicles, it means hydrogen fuel cells. The second is battery electric vehicles. And the third is ICE engines, the already existing proven IC engines being fired by cleaner fuels, by biofuels, what these gentlemen build. So we are working on all the 3 pathways because we will need to use all tools in the box to manage this situation. Energy transition is one very major part, but there are many other parts in terms of economic efficiency, circularity, and so many other things. So as a company, we are looking at all of these.
The national policy on biofuels has already set a target of 20% ethanol blending in petrol, right? And this is by 25 and 26. It's as soon as now. The global attention on biofuels as, say, perhaps one of the very key sources of energy of future is already there, right? But tell me, what is the biggest benefit of shifting to this kind of a model?
Now, back to ethanol, True Alt Bioenergy is an offshoot of a sugar company. Now, come to think of it, sugar industry was supposed to be the most traditional and even as a career option, when you don't get anything, you fall back into a sugar industry, right? Now, the lime and the glitter is coming back to the sugar sector thanks to the national biofuel policy. Back in 2018, we had just one unit of 120 kiloliters per day. And just in 4 years of time, the policy is a testament, and I am a demonstration of the policy. To today, I am setting up 2 million liters per day of capacity. That's a 20 times growth in 4 years. So this is what the National Biofuels policy has done. And ethanol blending with petrol, the story, it was supposed to be the 20% achievement was to be done by 2030. And the growth that the country has seen and the opportunities that rural India is giving the country as a whole, especially our farmers, is that we had to prepone that blending targets from 2030 to 2025. Of course, global giants like Shell, who have already seen this 20 or maybe 30 years ago, right? And we are probably Trualt is just following the path that they've laid 25, 30 years ago. And another point is Shell being the parent of the largest sugar manufacturing company called Hyzin in Brazil. They've already done a lot of these innovative fuels that I just spoke of, be it ethanol, be it compressed biogas. The biggest crisis that we as a generation have to address is climate change. And like he rightly again mentioned, is to achieve that transition is not just one way. Of course, ethanol 1G is the lowest hanging fruit.
What role do you think companies such as yours can play? And if there are any examples that are already in place wherein across sectors there are companies which have come together to try and help the cause.
No, absolutely. I think we at Shell absolutely believe in the power of collaboration and partnership. And if you look at our history, it's really built on that as a core ethos. Why to go so far? I can start with Volvo itself, where as we started off our conversations in terms of, how we can partner with them, it was really not just a commercial conversation, but it went deep into, as Mr. Bali was saying, that full end-to-end, scope 1, 2, and 3, what can be done in terms of the decarbonization and their commitment. And we started talking on variety of different initiatives, right from seeing what can we do for their dealerships in terms of solar, right to in their fuel composition, where will their R&D go and how can we be partnering with them? Yeah. So it is really, obviously commercials are very important, but we truly believe in long-term partnerships and relationships, which then say, okay, how can we be partnering with our customers in a manner that serves their needs? At the same time, I think as we work with our, collaborations with our suppliers in that sense, we don't take them as, okay, give us the most cheapest value and that's how we want to work with you. But it is again then seeing how do they become profitable so that they can in turn work with us with their best people, best thinking, and help us along the way. Then we are reaching out to academia as well. We tied up with IIT Madras just 3 months back in a full Shell collaboration to see how can we tap into that ecosystem. We do have our own E4 program, which is our, kind of a program to get the entire entrepreneurship community along the way. So we go and hunt for close to, a long list of from 1,000 entrepreneurs and putting up their ideas in energy down to cohorts of like 7 or 8, every few months. And we give them the seed funding, knowledge partnership, all the infrastructure which they need to grow, and then potentially invest in those ventures as they go forward. So it's really every step of the way, we believe that we will have better thinking, better people, better ideas if we go and reach out than working alone. And that's in our DNA, basically.
Mr. Bali, exactly, what you were also trying to say, that it's very important to have cross-sector partnerships to try and, drive emission reduction as well as innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very pleased. As Mansi said, we're going to start our global partnership with Shell in 3 months' time from January 2025. And to my mind, that's a very, very important breakthrough and a very important partnership, as I alluded to already, that we believe very, very clearly that partnership is the future leadership. And if you see over the last 5 years, how many partnerships which we have done, including with our competitors, which maybe 10 years ago, if you asked me, I would have said, no way. But today we have all sorts of partnerships because I believe that the challenge is humongous and no single player can actually solve this huge problem. There are many actors in the play. So if the first one is the vehicle manufacturer, for instance, The second one clearly is the infrastructure for charging and for refueling. I mean, because these are all new sources of energy. The infrastructure is not available today. We have to start from scratch. Then, of course, is the availability of green hydrogen or clean electric energy. And the fourth is the viable business model of the transporters or equipment suppliers and all. So if any of these actors do not do their job, if they fail, the adoption will become absolutely impossible.
You don't really, I mean, ethanol is already considered the fuel of the future. But tell me, what are the challenges that you face when it comes to economies of scale? You're a startup now, which is eventually going to become a decathlon and then so on and so forth. What is it that you think are the hurdles in the process?
So, of course, what both my previous speakers touched upon is, of course, policy would be the biggest challenge. Now, an interesting story is the compressed biogas, when we first set up in 2021, there were no takers at all. Shift to 2023, in a matter of 3 years, where I couldn't sell more than 1,000 kgs of CBG in rural places. This I'm talking of in a district called Bagalkot, which is a tier 3, maybe a tier 4 district. To today, there is a demand of more than 40 tons a day of CBG, which is why we are scaling up from 1 unit to 4 units in a matter of 3 years in one district alone. Now, interesting thing was the trucks that used to come earlier were all diesel trucks. Now they are, I'm not sure if they're retrofitted or the company fitted. There are Tata's, Aishas, they've all launched the light commercial vehicles which are coming with CBG now. I'll tell you one more interesting point, sir. So we have more than 7,000 tractors that supply this sugarcane to us, right? We have started converting these tractors to dual feed. They can either run on CBG or they can run on diesel. Now, these have already been proven, and it's a challenge for us to get the RTO approvals because each model has to get an RTO approval. And we get all these RTO approvals, and the tractors are being used by the farmers now. So I think so far we have converted more than 80 tractors. It's still a long path for us to convert more than 7,000 tractors. But this is only demonstrating that just one vehicle type, that's the tractors, will give us an opportunity to scale up to set up more than 100 plants in one district alone. That's the kind of requirement that this country can give us. And all of the fuel that we generate, the CBG or the ethanol or the aviation fuel, the most interesting aspect of it is not just saving ecology, it's creating a rural economy. So when the
multiplier effect, yeah.
So when the rural economy is strengthened, that's when we really grow as a country. So I think the biofuel story is just at its in the beginning, and we've still not seen what all it can do. Of course, companies like Shell will show us the path so that we can work, without any thoughts of what if. The what if question will be addressed by larger giants like you, ma'am, and we will tread that path and create more opportunities.
Such initiatives and events not only support innovation and problem solving, but also enable young innovators to actively contribute to India's transition towards a lower carbon future.